Hello, hello. All right, tribe. So I got some questions from people in our group, and one that was repeating itself was food prep. So I thought, perfect timing. We're just going to hop on here. We're going to talk a little bit about food prep, why to food prep, how to food prep, why it's important to food prep, all that jazz. So I don't know if it's the kind of situation where you're going to need to take notes or anything like that, but I don't know, you might. Hi, Rhonda. Okay, so why, food prep is so popular. If you look at magazines, you hop online, go to Pinterest, it's everywhere. Food prep, food prep, food prep. But even though it's so popular, I hear constantly from people, I don't know how to prep food. What food should I prep? How do you go about doing, a big prep? And honestly, what I find with most people when they're asking about food prep, what they really want to know or what they're really saying is, what should I eat? How much should I eat? And again, I'm going to go back to the whole issue. We are all so different. I don't know. I cannot look at you and say, oh, you need X amount of calories and you need X amount of this and X amount of that. That is something that you need to fine tune and something if you are truly looking to change your body, whether it's get stronger, get faster, be more flexible, put on muscle, take off body fat. There's so many different goals, but depending on what your goal, you got to fine tune on those macros. So I go back to what I said a few videos ago. I am not affiliated with the company by any means, but I'm a huge fan of avatarnutrition.com. You can enter your profile information, how active you are, whether you're male or female. You are going to need to know your body fat percentage. Yes, the best way to do that is to have a trainer actually measure you, but if all else fails, if you have one of those scales at home that tell you, if you start with that number, as that number changes, as long as your measurement method is consistent, then that's okay. So you're going to start with all that information. You're going to plug it into Avatar. It's going to come back to you and say, okay, Kayla, you need X amount of calories. So much of that should come from carbs. So much should come from fat and so much should come from protein. Now, based on that, thanks, Rhonda. Based on the information that you get back from that program, and you guys, that program program's the word to call it. It's only $9.99 a month. And even if you only get on 1 month and you only kind of track yourself during 1 month, you're at least going to get an idea of how many calories you need and what the breakdown is that your body needs to maintain or up muscle or lose fat, whatever the goal is that you're going for. So it's well worth the $9.99. If you choose to stay on it for a year or 6 weeks or 6 months or whatever, that's not expensive to get that information. And each week as you plug in your new weight and your new body fat percentage, it's going to adjust based on what you're telling it. So that's a really big bang for your buck for $9.99. So, okay, so let's say we've already done that. We've done the background work. We know what how much we're supposed to be eating of certain things. But now we need a food prep. So this is where I think it's important to know why it's so beneficial to food prep. And then I'm going to basically go down the list of things that people tell me why they can't food prep, and I'm going to prove you wrong. So why should we even food prep? Whether you have a goal of changing your body at all, food prep will save you money, right? So anytime you are making food at home versus buying food at a restaurant, it's going to be less expensive to make it at home. Easy math. So right there, that's a great reason. Whether you even want to lose weight or gain muscle or whatever, if you're cooking at home, you're going to be saving money. When you don't food prep and you find yourself in a situation where you're hungry, sometimes you'll just eat anything. I mean, think about it. You've probably made some pretty bad choices before because you were just so hungry and you didn't have food ready to microwave or ready to pull out of the fridge, So you just start eating. Like I have found myself, I've eaten some weird meals before. Like, I pick random things and I call it a meal, but it really wasn't very meal-like. But, at least I got some food in my belly, I guess. The other thing is you're most likely going to choose a lower quality food or food product if you haven't food prepped and you're not ready. So think of those times where you're hungry, you're running short on time, you don't have anything ready, and you've run into the convenience store and you've gotten some junk. And yes, at the time it makes sense, and yes, at the time you're hungry and you're willing to do it, but in the long run, that's not something you want to be repeating. And again, that actually costs more money. And sometimes too, you'll see people, because they haven't food prepped, they just don't eat. which I'm not saying you have to eat all day to be healthy, but I am saying you do need calories to keep your metabolism going. So if you find yourself just flat out not eating because you don't have food ready, that's a problem too. And then my most important reason in my house, with myself, I will admit, but definitely with my husband, is you don't want people getting hangry. If you do not know what hangry means, it is a combination of hungry and angry. And if you live with someone who suffers from hangry, you totally feel my thing. And that's fun. It's funny to say hangry. I love calling it hangry. We have this cute little picture in the kitchen. But in all honesty, when you do start getting hungry and aggravated and impatient and you're not thinking clear, hunger really does affect your body. So these are reasons why it's important to food prep. Now, people tell me all the time they don't know how to food prep, and I'm just going to call it like it is. That's absolute baloney. If you have ever cooked yourself a meal of any kind, whether it maybe not even cooked a meal, if you've made yourself a sandwich, you know how to food prep. All it means is preparing food ahead of time. So don't tell me you don't know how to food prep unless you're like 5, then you can tell me that. You know how to cook food, you know how to prep it. So what you're really needing to wrap your mind around is prepping more than one meal at a time, lots of meals at one time. So people tell me a lot, I don't have time to meal prep. Well, you do. If you're cooking even one meal a week, you have time to food prep because you can grill 2 or 3 chicken breasts or you can grill 12. You can put steaks in the oven. You can throw pork in the crock pot. You just have to think in bulk. So when you're looking at things that you like to eat, and that's another thing I want to talk about, do not prep food that you don't like. Don't go to Pinterest or some magazine website and be like, oh, these are all the meals I'm supposed to eat for the next 7 days. Go spend all that money, spend all that time prepping them, and then not eating them because you don't like them. And trust me, it'll happen. I don't care how much chicken and fish and broccoli you prep. If you don't like those things, they will sit in their cute little containers in the fridge. Actually, what will happen is they'll ride to work with you and they'll ride back home, and sometimes they'll sit in your car, and that's a stinky situation. So only prep food that you will actually eat that you like. I'm not saying you can't try new exciting things. I always think it's fun to try new food, but please don't suddenly say I'm going to start prepping all my food and going to go make stuff that you don't even care for. That totally defeats the purpose. So back to the I don't have time excuse. You do have time. You just have to think in bulk. If you are making eggs at breakfast and you've got your little pan and you're making a couple of eggs, bust out the big pan, crack all 12 and get busy. It takes just a little bit longer to make the 12 than it does the 2, so you might as well cook ahead. If you are chopping vegetables or you're steaming some sort of vegetable, a couple of servings versus 4 or 5 servings, it doesn't take that much longer. Just think in bulk. The other excuse I hear a lot, and again, I'm going to call baloney on it, is I don't like to eat the same food over and over. People tell me all the time, oh, I can never food prep. I could never do that because I don't eat the same food over and over. Baloney. I bet you do. I bet if we look at your calendar right now, you visit the same restaurants, you eat the same-ish food for breakfast, you eat the same-ish food for dinner. You might be going to a different place, or you might be using a different sauce, or maybe one day you have turkey with bread and one day you have turkey wrapped in lettuce, but I can guarantee that you are eating very similar foods over and over and over and over. We're humans. It's routine. It's nature. It's what we do. So don't give me that line. You can eat it. You just have to learn to be spicy with it and to mix things up. And we're going to talk about that in a minute. The other thing is people say, I don't know what to cook. I don't cook. I don't know recipes. Hello, if you are watching this on Facebook, Google. Click Google. Click food prep. Go to Pinterest. There are so many people with so many websites with tons and tons of recipes. And food prep websites are actually made for bulk recipes. So instead of seeing a chicken dish that serves 4, you're going to see a chicken dish that serves 2 people for 7 days in a row. So don't say you can't figure that out. If you can watch this video, you can Google some recipes and you can find some things. And again, when you're Googling those recipes, if you read it and you think, oh, that sounds disgusting, don't make it. You're not going to eat it. You've got to make stuff that you like. So the other thing I see a lot with people, when they food prep, again, if you know your macros and you know what you're going for, you're going to be better at this. But a lot of people will food prep and they'll get these cute little dishes and they'll put a little bit of chicken and they'll put a little bit of vegetable and they'll put a little bit of quinoa, and then they go and they eat their lunch at noon, and at 1 o'clock they're starving because you didn't pack enough food. It's not that food prep doesn't work for you. When you prep it, you have to prep enough of it. And something to think and like keep in the back of your mind, when you are prepping food at home and you're not like putting tons of fat in it, and you're not putting tons of salt in it, not like tons of cheese and all these things and stuff that you would get if you were eating out at a restaurant, you need more of the good food to make up those calories. So be aware of what you're making and know your macros, and then you're going to know if you have enough in that little dish or not. You'd be surprised at how big your dish needs to be when you actually start prepping all your food. So those are the excuses that I get a lot. And like I said, I call baloney on all of them. And let's say you truly don't have time. That's when you have to decide if it's really a priority for you. Because I can guarantee if it's a priority for you, you will find time. You will find time. If your doctor came to you and said you have a health problem because you're not eating or you're eating poorly, you would find time. So find time now. Don't wait till that situation comes up. Find time now. And if you really truly don't like eating all the same food, then just be prepared that it's going to take you a few weeks to cycle through, but you can food prep lots of different foods over a period of time, throw them in the freezer, and then start cycling them through. So yes, it might take a little longer, but if you're really truly that picky, then I guess you're worth it, right? So that's what you'll have to do. So let's talk about when you actually are prepping, when you're actually cooking the food and thinking about the food. A lot of people, if you've never food prepped, a lot of people are surprised at how expensive it is when you go to the grocery. Because some people are used to going to the grocery and buying enough food for just, 1 week. And honestly, I think if a lot of people thought about it, you probably don't eat every meal at home all week long. So you probably are only buying enough for maybe 4 or 5 meals at home with some breakfast, and maybe lunches are out and there's a couple dinners out. So you're going to be surprised when you see 12 chicken breasts come across the register versus 2 to 4. Don't let that freak you out. In the long run, like I said, it's a lot cheaper and you're going to be eating at home more. So not only is it going to be healthy, but you're going to be saving money. So you have to start thinking about the price per serving. If you're really struggling with the math, really start breaking it down. How much is it per serving? It's way cheaper when you come through the grocery. So when I personally food prep, and I'm not a food prep specialist, it's just something that I do myself. I food prep and it makes my life a whole lot easier. But I will say in my situation, I am a very non-spicy kind of person. My mouth and my stomach do not care for Tabasco and pepper and that kind of thing. And my husband loves that. So what I had to learn early on is that when I cook, and I cook in bulk, I think of the base as being plain. So for example, I might put 12 chicken breasts in a crock pot with a little bit of water and some salt and pepper, and I cook them. Right? That's plain Jane. Nothing exciting going on there. But when it comes time to actually put the chicken into something, for example, it might go into a dish for my husband, and it might have spicy guacamole and some Tabasco on it and maybe even some cheese. We can get really fun and funky with his stuff because that's the way he likes it. And then mine's probably going to end up in a dish with some mild salsa, maybe some slices of avocado, because I just prefer my stuff to be more plain. So for those of you who have picky eaters, a lot of different eaters, you don't have to make the big dish for everybody. You just have to get the main ingredients ready, and then you can alter them once they're out of that dish. For example, the chicken coming out of the crock pot. What are we then going to do with it? You can take, for instance, those 12. I'll just kind of keep referring to that as a reference point. But so the 12 chicken breasts, when it comes out of the crock pot, let's say we've shredded it. Now we have a huge pile of shredded chicken, right? I can take half of that, put it over in a separate container. We can use that for barbecue chicken, maybe like slider type situations later in the week. The other half, and this is actually something I just did, the other half we use for a basil pesto kind of Italian type dish with some olives and things that we did. So again, it was just plain chicken. That's what everything started with, was plain shredded chicken. But once we sauced it up and once we spiced it up, it got completely different. And then again, to take it further, maybe you've got somebody who is struggling with, maybe they can't have as many carbohydrates. So maybe you're making chicken sliders for your husband, but maybe you're taking your chicken and wrapping it up in lettuce as a more of like a wrap. So the possibilities are endless. You just have to be creative with the outcome and be plain, I guess is my point in the beginning. So, same thing can go with, so for example, we have a turkey chili recipe that we make, and when we make it, it makes a huge pot of it. Again, I don't like it spicy. He loves it spicy. So the big pot of turkey chili is created and cooked, and It's good flavor, but it's not spicy. It's plain. Once that chili is made, you can eat a bowl of chili. You can put some chili with your eggs in the morning. You can put some chili on top of a baked potato. I can take the chili as it is. He can take the chili and throw Tabasco and jalapenos and all kinds of fun stuff on it if he wants. But again, you just have to think of the big bulk item, but how many different ways can you serve that bulk item? I hope this is making sense, or if you're following me. But again, I'm only looking at things that we like. So we have a turkey meatloaf recipe that we love. When I make a turkey meatloaf, I don't make one, I make 3. I've already got the bowl out. I've already got all the stuff out. My hands are already icky and in the, meat. So why not keep mixing it up? And then the oven's already hot. So I put 2 on one tray, 1 on the other. We layer it. Yes, it takes a little bit longer to cook because there's 3 in there. But when they're done, I have 3 versus 1. Now, 1 can cool and go straight in the freezer if I want it to. 1 I can slice up and serve kind of hamburger-ish if I want to. The other one we can just treat as a meatloaf. And again, when the meatloaf is served, my husband puts Tabasco on everything, I guess. Or those hot pepper flakes. He loves that stuff. So, again, I might have mine with some rice on the side, and he might be having his with some mashed potatoes or something. Like, you can just play with the outcome, but you've got to think big and bulky and simple / plain in the beginning, and then divvy out from there. So yes, it'll take some time to practice. You're not just going to watch a video and be a master food prep person all of a sudden. One of the struggles that I think some people have, you think or you read a lot that, prep on Sunday. Okay, Sunday may not be the best day for you. So find the day that is. Maybe you can't spend 8 hours in the kitchen on one day and make all the food. That's okay. Food prep some breakfast things on Wednesday afternoon. Food prep some vegetables on Thursday morning. You guys, it's the modern world. We have microwaves, we have freezers, we have refrigerators. There's so many options out there of food storage and reheating it. My kind of rule of thumb is that once I make it, if I'm not going to eat it in 4 or 5 days, it goes in the freezer that I can bring it out later. If I know for sure we're going to go through it in 4 or 5 days, then I'm cool with it. I'll just leave it all in the fridge in its little containers and we'll go from there. So don't overthink it. Think of your favorite foods. Think of your favorite way. Like I love the crock pot. My husband loves the grill. Put that together and we can food prep a lot of stuff at once. If you're going to take the time to fire up the oven, take the time to fire up the grill. If you're going to take the time to do anything, make extra. Make lots and lots of extra. And again, maybe one week you make a little bit of extra and you put it in the freezer, and the next week you make a little bit extra and you put it in the freezer. Before you know it, you're going to start building up your supply and you're going to be able to start working out of that. Now, there's a couple of things that you can do to take all the pressure off yourself. The first one is a company that I like. It's called Wildtree. I know I've posted some stuff on my personal page about it before. Wildtree is, and I'm probably going to botch this up, so if you're a Wildtree person, don't be mad at me, but my thought of Wildtree is it's a lot of organic, some gluten-free, some not. So you gotta, if that's an issue for you, you need to make sure you read the label. But it's non-preservative based spices and sauces. And the thing I love about that particular company is that they are so giving with their recipes. So when you buy a bottle of something, there's already a recipe on it, or you can go to their website, or they have an app now and you can find all kinds of recipes that particular item can be used with. And again, when I look at a recipe, if it says 1 pound of meat, I actually will laugh out loud right then and there. I'm like, okay, because I'm probably going to make 3 or 4 pounds at a time. So if one bottle does 1 pound, I'm getting 3 or 4 bottles of something and we're making a lot at once. But I love that. Again, that's kind of, it's not really cheating, but it's kind of cheating. But they also have these great freezer meal workshops that they do where you can go and prep all your food and you leave with 10 freezer meals. Talk about a lifesaver, especially when you're running, it's back to school time. I know a lot of you moms are already feeling crazed and pressured. It's great. You just pull it out of the freezer in the morning or the day before, and then you can either, some of them are crock pot, some of them are to be baked, some are to be grilled. It's whatever floats your boat, but that's a great way to help yourself. And then there's a whole slew of food prep companies. So if you really truly are completely useless in the kitchen and you are completely useless when it comes to feeding yourself, or you're just too busy, or you just want to try something different, again, get to the Google, go to the Google machine, look for food prep companies. They have all kinds of companies out there that service to athletes and bodybuilders where you can say, I need this many carbs, this much protein, this much fat. They'll actually design the meals based around you. Obviously, this gets into some money versus how I was saying you could save some money with prep. But again, if this is what you need, if this is what will make your life easier and help you take care of yourself, you're worth it. You get one body. You might as well take care of it. So I know this is kind of general, but I feel like that's what food prep is. I don't know what kind of food you like. I don't know like what spicy things you like or maybe don't like. So you have to do some thinking for yourself. But remember, when you're cooking, think big amounts. If you're going to take the time to peel potatoes, peel a bunch of potatoes. If you're going to take the time to scramble an egg or two, scramble a dozen of them. Don't think of it as a time, like it's going to take so much time. It's just going to take a little bit of time than what you were already going to spend anyway. So I hope this helped you. If you guys have any questions, if you have any tips, if you have any recipes that you know work great for food prep, and that's the thing, if you have a recipe that you love that serves 4 and you're like, oh, I'm going to food prep this, I'm going to make this into 12 servings, you might be surprised how much extra spice it takes. I mean, I know it seems like the math should just be what the math should be, but sometimes I feel like it takes a little bit more. So if you have perfected a food prep recipe, if you have a website that you think is awesome with food prep ideas, put that in the video here. Let people feed off of each other. Again, I want this to be a group that helps each other, that we work through stuff together. So I encourage you, especially with this back to school time, food prep, because I know some of you won't be getting home until really, really late at night after football games and practice and this, that, and the other. And to avoid running through McDonald's, to avoid running through the Speedway convenience store, or to avoid just going to bed on an empty belly, prep some food when you get a chance. All right? Thank you so much. If you guys have any questions, let me know. Bye.